Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Walking with J.Beau, an almost daily walking vlog, which lately has been daily. My apologies for that. So anyway, it's breezy today. Temperatures in the 50s. It's going to be very chilly tonight. I am optimistic that it's going to warm up a bit. We'll be back to the mid-60s where we should be. But anyway, tonight is windy, chilly, very fall-like. Now today, I am going to walk to City Hall because I need to vote. I'm going to vote today. You're not going to see me vote. You're going to see me drop off my absentee ballot in the drop-off box outside of City Hall. There's that woman with no neck. I'm glad she noticed that I'm crossing because the light just turned green. So anyway, I filled out my ballot. It is an absentee ballot, and there's a lot of mixed feelings about people mailing their ballots in. I don't like mail-in ballots either. Absentee ballots are not mail-in ballots, even though you can mail them, if that makes sense. A mail-in ballot is where a state has a policy of sending ballots to every address. Where they didn't request one. The real problem with that is people move a lot. So if somebody lives in 3 different addresses, all right, 3 different addresses, then 3 different ballots are going to get mailed to that same person at 3 different locations. And you can just imagine on a statewide level how much problem that'll cause. So we need to get all this stuff in order. We need voter ID. Now in Maine, you can't register to vote unless you prove who you are. So you need an ID to register to vote. But they will accept a bill you got in the mail in your name and your address. So that's not exactly the best way to verify somebody's ID. Naming the last 4 of your social doesn't work either. Especially when your social security card, when they used to give those to people, not sure they do anymore, used to say not to be used for identification right on it. It's never intended for that. So voter ID solves everything. How so? Well, when you have 250 ballots mailed in somebody's Amazon package, they can't be used unless you use an ID to vote. So that eliminates that as a problem. It's pretty self-evident. So I think common sense will prevail. It seems to be, from what I've seen, and even with the local media, it seems to be a pretty popular idea with voters. I think it's going to pass. It's passed in 30-something other states, I think, for a reason. because people want to trust their elections. You got people that hate Republicans that don't want Republicans to cheat, so they're going to support voter ID. So it's pretty universal. Just you have this faction of the rabid left, and I almost laughed watching a local news clip of this guy that's supporting No on One right in front of us here. He's one of the people promoting that here, talking about how it's going to affect disabled people. It's going to force them to have to jump through hoops to vote. And you know, the truth of the matter is, you know, they just tell a lot of lies. They lie about a lot of things, like people that don't have an ID, they can't afford to get one. Well, part of this bill is the state of Maine tax dollars will fund somebody's ID if they can't afford it, so they can vote. So there isn't going to be any cost to anybody. So I fully expect it to pass. Absentee ballots are not going away. You're just not going to be able to call over the phone and get ballots without proving who you are. And unfortunately, that seems to be a practice that's been done. And I think that is where the state of Maine accidentally leaked the number in an interview of 13,000 people that shouldn't be on the voter rolls. So, thanks. So I don't know what we're going to do about those people being upset, but the bottom line is we need to have safe elections. Got to. Absolutely imperative. Because as stated, it eliminates all the cheating, or most of it. So anyways, that being said, I think we're on the right course. The Democrats here did not want to put that legislation on it. They actually tried to kill it. But good old-fashioned citizens' initiative laws in Maine are very liberal. That is how we get a lot of ridiculous laws. But the point is, it's done democratically where voters get to choose. That's how we got constitutional carry, for example. Voters voted for that. It only won by 1% of the vote, but it got the majority of the vote. And it has stood since 2015. So that's been here for 10 years now. Crime is low in Maine, especially violent crime. Now that's the other thing. They like to fluff the crime numbers and say crime is up. Well, if you're talking about breaking into people's houses to steal stuff to buy drugs, things like that, crime is not down. The specific thing of it is violent crime. Okay? That's the key. Violent crime. Less rape, less murder, less robbery using a weapon. Because people here carry. I'm carrying right now. So it's one of those things where people want to protect themselves and their families, and Democrats here own firearms and like firearms, so that's why Democrats can't get anything passed. And Democrats had done some kind of procedural thing to block the legislation, so Republicans just got it on the ballot for people to vote for through citizens' initiative. Unfortunately, sometimes we end up with ranked choice voting that way. Voters chose that. voters also chose to legalize recreational marijuana. So, which I don't agree with. But I'm sure somebody watching this enjoys their weed. And this is a democratic republic. And that's what you voted for. So I have to be okay with it, even though I don't like it. So these are the kind of things that we have going on in Maine. So November 4th is election day. I thought it was the 5th, but it's actually the 4th. So we got red flag laws. I researched it and I voted against it. I don't want no red flag laws because it can be abused. You know, some people would argue, well, maybe it'll save some lives. Well, maybe it won't. Maybe it'll ruin somebody else's life because it was used as a weapon against them. I really hold the Second Amendment equal weight to the First, because it's an amendment like any other one. We don't regulate free speech. We don't force people to get psychological exams before we allow them to speak. And sometimes speaking leads to riots that kill 200 people and cause billions of dollars of damage, like in 2020. We don't regulate that. And anybody that said, oh, well, geez, people should get permits to protest. Well, who issues the permits? Who's in power at the time? How political are they? Is the Republican Party going to be denied a permit because they're going to call it a Nazi rally? So, no, we can't do that. Just can't. Democrat Socialists of America support Antifa. They're freaking domestic terrorists. They talk about being violent all the time, and I'm not going to suppress their free speech either. So, yeah, watch this guy. Thanks. So anyways, big news today, and this is big news. It looks like we actually do have a peace deal with Hamas and Israel. And I say Hamas instead of Palestine because it's really about Hamas, not Palestine. President Trump has been working and working and working at this since he's been sworn in and before he was sworn in. Talking with our allies in the Middle East, the Saudis, Qatar, etc., so on and so forth, and trying to get them to be willing to help rebuild Gaza without the United States doing it, because we're not going to pay to rebuild Gaza. So, not with our tax dollars. So the Middle East is going to look at it like from an investor point of view. Beautiful beachfront property in Gaza. All they need is to have some form of democratic process where people actually get to vote, or have some kind of sanity that's non-militant. This street's going to be a tough one to cross today. Rush hour. I'm going to have to walk down this way a little bit. I have to pick a hole here and cut across diagonally. There we go. We can get there from here. I'm gonna watch my right flank. So anyway, a lot of people, including myself, have literally been praying for peace and praying for President Trump's administration to get a breakthrough. And unfortunately, it comes at a time with many hostages are dead out of the ones taken. A lot of the women were raped, murdered. October 7th, 2023, families were bound and burned. Women with their babies set on fire, immolated. I'm not going to take this left, I'm going to go up straight here a little bit. So, very nasty stuff. Babies beheaded, people burned alive, raped, murdered, bodies broken. We all remember that truck with that beautiful young girl in the back in nothing but her underwear, body obviously broken, leg twisted the wrong way. I'm sure she suffered an absolutely horrendous, horrific death. So, some of these people have been starved, the ones that are still alive. So there is a peace deal. It looks like it's going to be binding. I mean, we can be hopeful. Monday or Tuesday is the day that we're probably going to see hostages released. Part of the deal for Hamas. And this was an ultimatum for Hamas. This was, you release all of these hostages, sign an end to this, and you won't be wiped off the face of the earth. Because Hamas at this point, there's really not much left of them at all. Wiping out the rest of them would actually be pretty easy, because they haven't had the financial backing of Iran like they did before. So the exchange is Hamas is going to get hundreds, okay, hundreds of prisoners back, Hamas fighters that are radicalized and want to kill Jews and Americans and every other damn person they consider an infidel. So a few hundred is not a few thousand. It might be an acceptable amount to get 20 people back that are still alive and the remains of many others. But the deal was the hostages all have to be released at one time, not two here, two there, delaying this as long as possible. They have been told they need to do this now, and they have a deadline. And President Trump said, if you don't meet it, you're going to be wiped off the earth. And he means it. And they know he means it. Hamas is in no position to bargain. All they had left was hostages. And as soon as they don't have those, then all bets are off and they can be wiped out. And I'm sure Israel would love to do that. But that's where the coalition Trump put together came through with other people in the Middle East. brokering this with Hamas and other Middle East partners, we have tried to stay out of this as much as possible as Americans dictating what they should do. So these mediaries, oh, look at this old SS. Look at this old SS. Look at this. Oh boy. Old SS Chevy Nova. Look at that baby. Yes, sir. Anyway, somebody's here to pick up some drugs. That's nice. I bet that sounds absolutely wonderful. So anyways, right now it is up to Hamas entirely. This is their decision. They fully understand that if they renege on it and they goof off and screw this up, they're going to get obliterated, literally. So, very interesting. So we shall watch what happens. It's going to feel like eternity, an eternity waiting for Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday. But what has happened is you got a lot of people that are now very excited. The people that want the war to stop in Palestine are happy. The people on the other side of it are happy because they want this war to be over, myself included. I don't think it's one that should have started in the first place, but dumbass Joe Biden released Iran's money, billions of dollars, and that's what they did with it. We saw that happen. We saw problems start popping up Biden's first month in office in Palestine. Then we saw, because they knew he was weak, then we saw what happened in Afghanistan with Biden. Absolutely huge disaster. Just horrible. I'm still pissed about that. And the rest of the world has been broken since then. Ukraine with Russia. That's going to be a tougher one to solve, but that's going to be solved as well. 7,000 people died last week between the two countries. Soldiers, civilians, etc. Absolutely horrible. The amount of people that have died in that war is the worst death total since World War II. Think about that. In that theater. Okay, that's what I mean, in that theater. I'm not talking about Vietnam and all that. I'm talking about what you would call the European theater. And every single one of those conflicts started up in the Balkans. So President Trump is probably the perfect leader at the right time. Got NATO to put up more money, and he's getting NATO to stop buying energy from Russia. That's how stupid these people are. It's almost like they want the war. That's been a conspiracy theory I've heard for a while now, and it's kind of hard to argue that it's not true. You're upset Russia invades Ukraine. You want the United States to supply all the weaponry for free from tax dollars while you're buying oil and gas from the country attacking Ukraine. That would be like, you know, fighting against Hitler, and after he invaded Romania for the oil fields, you just start buying oil from Hitler while you're fighting him. I mean, how stupid is that? That's what they were doing. So, these people are crazy. Crazy. So anyway, I'm cautiously optimistic, but the fact is, this really does look solid. Very, very hopeful. This does look like it's going to happen because Hamas is at the end. They've got nothing left but 20 living hostages to bargain with. And Trump said there isn't going to be a peace deal with them until there's no hostages. And he's right. So this obviously has been explained and understood by Hamas that it's not going to end well for you if you don't quit. I don't think they anticipated the response that Israel did against them, and they damn well should have. Well, he was in a hurry. So anyway, we are witnessing history right now, just like we witnessed history when it happened 2 years ago. It's pretty sad. It really is a sad story. Somebody else must have got shot at the projects. So anyway, it's a pretty crazy thing going on historically. Just a simple fact that, you know, to put this all in context, and it says this in the book of Revelation, and I corrected myself because I've always called it the book of Revelations, and Bible scholars will scold you for that. There's only one Revelation, the book of Revelation. Anyway, it states, because if you've ever peeped into the Bible, you'll understand that Jews had their Holy Land and they were chased from it. They were scattered out into the desert and other parts of the world with disunity, and the Bible says that someday, 2,000-3,000 years later, that 3,000 years later, Israel would have their country back, their homeland. And that happened in 1948. So you think about that. Over 1,000 years before Christ came along, the Bible says that someday the Jews will have their land back. And then it happens. It also states that the nations of the world are going to turn their back on Israel. That has happened. Of course, there's no mention in it of the United States being involved in any of this. But well, we're just where we are. We're along for the ride. I don't know what else to tell you about it. You couldn't make that up in a script for a movie if you wanted to. So, anyways, I'm going to go drop my ballot in the drop box outside City Hall. I believe it's the only drop box. Official drop box. I don't think there are any unofficial ones. Thanks. So there we have that. Wasn't very much on this ballot to vote for. Just voter ID, red flag laws, and 2 different positions for school committee in Lewiston. And school committee is very important. So I took some time and researched their Facebook pages. And I voted for the guy that is a Republican who hates what's going on with the schools. He's a photographer, freelance, he's got his own business, and he lives in a very humble apartment because they always put their addresses on the ballots. Well, not on the ballots, but on the city website for transparency, so people know who they are. And then once he's elected, his phone number will be posted, so he'll probably get a burner phone for that. Anyway, I voted for him because well, actually I said he was a Republican. He's not, but he's got common sense, and he's not a Democrat. There are no party affiliations for school committee. I found that interesting. They're not listed as Democrat or Republican. They're listed as independent, unaffiliated, is what it says. So I thought that was interesting. But one of the guys has these really weird colored shirts, buttoned all the way up to his neck. He's got these kind of green, purple, pretty gay looking glasses. And the way he was speaking is that, nah, this guy's not going to be around children, sorry. I'm not voting for him. I don't care how much common sense he spews, which he didn't. And then the woman, I went to her profile and stuff, and she's a Karen. Middle-aged white woman bitching about everything, so nope, not voting for her. So that's why I asked for an absentee ballot, so I can have time to research the people on it, which is very important. So that's what I did. So the other one was school committee for Ward 4, and the other one was a different position in the school committee. I voted for the Republican in the Ward 4 school committee. He had his picture with Paul LePage. He's a supporter of Republican policies and getting the trans shit out of schools. So I voted for him. This is that building that had a pot plant growing up on the ledge. I'm sure it's been harvested by now. Fat little squirrel. I spooked him. He was going to run across the road. I probably just saved his life. Telling you, it's women with no neck. They're terrible drivers. I don't know why that is. I'm at a marked crosswalk and she decided to go anyway, and then she waves while she goes by. Like she has no idea, apparently. There's the big church. St. Peter and Paul Basilica. Some nefarious hombres across here, homeless with their money big in signs, it looks like. Lord help us. I got a 360 video on the profile of this church. I'm going to be getting some winter snowscapes when we get snow with the 360 camera. When we get some snow, that is. Well, another month and a half. I smell weed. Somebody's smoking. They all walk around like they're doing something illegal or bad, and it's legal. It's like they don't want to lose that mystique. Kind of like when people, you know, they open a pint of booze or something, they'll hide it in their jacket and take a sip. I'm doing something deviant. It's fucking legal. Put it in a brown paper bag and suck on the bottle. Put it in a brown paper bag, it's not drinking in public. Cut across over here. Like plenty of destruction going on. Hope you're enjoying the walk today. On my journey to go practice my democratic right in a republic of voting. So hopefully I'm inspiring you people to get off your asses and vote. My brother is working in Virginia and he filled out the form to get an absentee ballot. filled it out and mailed it. But he's just going to fill it out when he comes here, because voting day is not till the first week in November, in about a month. So plenty of time. So anyways, we're going to walk down and drop it in the box. So to reiterate, okay, if you vote yes on one, voter ID, this is the longest worded question in Maine history, because the Secretary of State, Shanna Bellows, is trying to confuse people when they go vote. I am thankful that the local media, ABC, NBC, and CBS and other networks have covered it properly and actually explained what everything is, so people should know when they go vote. But I think they put that in there to confuse old people or people that don't read too well, and that's what they tried to sue for, and the courts in Maine said that what she did was legal. There's nothing improper. And it's like, well, you're disenfranchising people that don't read well. And the reason why they said that is if somebody can't read well, you have an option to have somebody fill out your ballot for you, and they have to sign the ballot saying they helped you with your ballot. So technically that's correct, but we know why she did it. Because she cheats. So anyway, it's really a ridiculously long question that talks about changing how people vote and changing this and changing that. And so don't know why they think they can influence an election that way, but that's what they're trying to do. A fat pigeon there pecking away at something. No trespassing. So this construction project over here is still going. It's going to be a housing units, low-income housing, basically. That's the tax dollars that, thank you very much. That's the tax dollars that Susan Collins wrangled. She's the one that wanted, she wanted a lot of these illegals sent up in red counties in northern Maine. Yeah, I'm sure they would love it up there. Stick them in a town with 200 people and see how that works out for them. Now this is a city hall drop box. It's not the voting box. That's the ballot box right here. So they used to have a camera out here monitoring, but I don't see one. So anyway, I'll have to edit that. So I'm going to edit that. So I have voted, and I showed the back of the envelope with my signature, so I'm going to have to edit that. I'll edit that off. That is another reason right there why I don't like to live stream. It's for that very reason. So anyways, my friends, we're going to cut through over here as we go through the homeless cavalcade of joy. No public consumption of alcoholic beverages allowed. I'm sure that is well obeyed. This guy walking with the dog. He's got pants falling down around his ankles. He's obviously mentally impaired, homeless, and he's got a doggy friend. And I just really hate seeing that. There's a lot of people that just need help here. And they're not getting it. I mean, what do you do? Maybe this country will stop wasting all the money it's been wasting, and all of this stuff that Trump is putting into play will actually turn around and be abused by Democrats later, paying for stuff like this probably, so we can be broke again. But that guy right there obviously cannot take care of himself. That's obvious. You can tell just looking at him. And you don't feel bad about that. Anyway, good old Kennedy Park. Now the shadows are starting to get long, and it's windy. It's getting chilly, even with this sweatshirt I'm wearing. So we're going to have a freeze, our first freeze tonight, early. It's going to be 29 degrees overnight tonight. A little early to start seeing frozen puddles in the morning. I don't think that's going to take. It would have to be repetitive, which it isn't going to be. It's just that that front has just gone by, so it's chillier than normal right now. We got a neighborhood garden here. Whatever's left growing in here is going to get damaged tonight with that freezing. I see some corn stalks. I say they've already been plucked. So this is a good idea for an empty lot. To have a public garden. I guess it's public. So I'm going for my walk now because it's going to be chilly tonight. It's going to take an adjustment to start walking in cold weather, which I will. I usually have another shirt underneath. Usually what I do in the wintertime is you got to dress in layers. So I have some 2XL shirts, long sleeves. That's essential because I can wear some of these new housing projects here. I can wear, they restored this building nicely, I should add. That actually looks pretty good. So I should add that just a regular t-shirt I can wear a large. Extra large fits loose on me, but fits nicely. 2XL is too big. So I have a lot of 2XL shirts because I used to weigh a lot more, and now I don't. So now they're shirts that I only wear when I walk, with a long sleeve shirt and a t-shirt on top of the long sleeve. Thanks. And after that, so typically for me in the wintertime, I'll have gloves. I will have a long sleeve shirt, t-shirt on top of that. Then I will have a 2XL long sleeve on top of that. And then I'll wear a thick hoodie. And when you dress in layers, you want that thinsulation, it's called. Air in between layers. Let's see if I regret walking by here. This house right here had a drive-by. Somebody shot at the house a couple of months ago. they caught the guy. Guy from out of state, of course, here to sell drugs or run something to do with it. This is not my favorite part of town to walk through. That's a bank right there. I actually switched from that bank to another one because this one's in this neighborhood. One day I'm sitting in the car to right where that white car is parked, that white Nissan. I was parked there before going in the bank, checking over my paperwork for something. This freaking girl sticks her head in the window and she wanted me to pay her for sex. I was like, excuse me, I'm busy, have a nice day, go away. Thank you. Not interested in any communicable diseases today. And as you can see, this whole neighborhood is pretty run down now. Hi. So, this is the same neighborhood I used to walk through. Okay? When I was a kid, to go to school. Used to stop at the variety store at the corner here. That's where you would get your liquid filled wax pops. Remember those? Forgot exactly what they were called. Candles? Was it candles? Wax candles? They filled with liquid or something? Well, anyway, they were these hollow sticks of wax with sweet liquid in it. Forgot what those are called. I don't know. Run, little fat squirrel. You can tell it's getting cooler. This is the same street we walked through this summer, and everybody was out on the street. Now everybody's indoors. I'm like, fuck this cold shit, man. You have to remember they come here from an area where it's regularly 100 degrees. And they come here in the high temperature. Right now the temperature is about 51. And it's windy, so it feels like it's in the 30s. Upper 30s. Well, not cold enough for gloves yet. It's going to be another few weeks, unless I walk at night. And I'll have a knit cap on instead of a ball cap, which you can't see today because I have the camera mounted on my head. But I wanted my hands free today. I also turn off the LED lights on the head camera and also turn off the LCD screen. So somebody doesn't go, hey, there's a GoPro, I'm going to run by and snatch it. He looks too old to catch me if I do. Which I just might be. The doors. There, I voted today. So I've noticed some trees are turning later than last year, like that one. Some are turning too soon. Some are just turning brown and dropping off the tree. Very strange foliage year. All right, I've got 3.5 miles in the books. Lewiston Strong of the credit union. Milestones, Federal Credit Union. Not familiar with them. Well, I voted. I did my part. You can see from my shadow that I like walking, not carrying a selfie stick sometimes. You just get a better rhythm and get your arms going. I also post better times per mile when I'm not holding a selfie stick. I also get a better cardio workout as a result. Hope everybody's having a spectacular week. Hope you have a beautiful rest of week. Another reason why I wanted to vote today is we're supposed to get rain tomorrow. The Weather Channel has been talking about a nor'easter. If you're not familiar with a nor'easter, that is where you have a circular motion of a storm that turns counterclockwise, and it's very windy on the northeast side of it because of the tight rotation depending on the severity. And so we got one of those that's going to hit the Carolinas into Virginia, the eastern part of Virginia and the Carolinas. And it's going to go up into Connecticut, Boston, Massachusetts, and it's going to intensify as it gets there. Well, we're not very far from Boston, so that's going to affect us. So hopefully it's not going to be too windy where we'll lose power or something. I don't think we will, because we haven't been rain soaked like when we did lose power, because trees uprooted. The ground is so dry right now, it's probably like concrete. Probably have a hard time pulling trees even if you used something made to pull trees. So I don't anticipate that big a deal, but if we get wind gusts over 50, that's always a possibility. And we are going to get some rain. Now, one app I saw said rain for 4 days, another one said 5, and then another one said just 2 days. The local news says 2 days, WMTW weather. So the apps say every day of the week until Saturday. Next week, not this week. But we are supposed to get some rain. I had the date wrong for that. I just remembered that. That's the extended forecast, so that's why the numbers don't correlate. Because I was thinking about that, I was like, well, that doesn't even make sense. Because they usually have it down. If it's going to rain tomorrow, then they know. I have not caught the weather forecast for the rest of this week. I actually think it's going to be, oh yeah, that's right. They said 66 degrees either tomorrow or Saturday. And Sunday in the 60s, low 60s. Monday, and then Tuesday. Tuesday is going to be the rain day. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, allegedly. According to 2 apps, local news says it's still too early, but it's probably going to rain Tuesday and Wednesday. But the Weather Channel, Fox Weather Channel, is talking about a nor'easter with rough surf, a lot of rain for a lot of people with high winds. So we'll see what happens with that. And we'll see what happens with all that stuff. Roof. Which roof? Which roof? Dog's looking at me like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm not the one just repeating roof over and over again, am I? Roof, roof, roof. All right, we're at 4 miles. Cut across the street here. Where the fuck am I going? Where the fuck am I going? Oh, she's built like a tank. Go down Washington Street. Another street I don't think I've ever been on my whole life. That's one of the benefits when you're out walking all the time, is you're actually seeing the actual state of the city by going through these neighborhoods. A lot of these neighborhoods now are all migrants, all people that came here. A lot of them. All right, let's walk up this way. Wilson. Wilson Street. Whatever the hell that is. Oh, we got a Free Palestine sign. Stand with Ukraine. That's all the latest things. I guarantee you that as a white liberal female lives there. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. She's for the latest thing. Yeah, we'll go up this way. We get civilization up this way. A woman sitting in a garage in her pajamas. Her pajama mambas. I voted. That always feels so awesome. I'm going to come out at the pharmacy up here. A drive-through pharmacy. Boom, 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 boom. Hopefully that goes away before I get there, because YouTube will lock up my video over copyrights. Unless I keep talking over it and it doesn't register, I guess. Come on, man. You gotta play that for the whole neighborhood or what? Move along. Get going, Skippy. Over here. Go through this way. I think I can go through that way. I think we can go this way. Nice looking tree. A little thin on the top, like they all are this year, but cut through over this way. Doom, 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 doom. I gotta watch Night of the Living Dead. It's got one of the coolest soundtracks, and it's public domain. And nobody copyrighted the music. They used a whole bunch of samples from the local library, they said. There was actually a science fiction movie I watched. Some kind of weird space thing. And there were aliens on Earth. And it was in the late 50s? Late 50s, early 60s. It was before Night of the Living Dead came out. And that friggin' movie had the same music from Night of the Living Dead. And it was pretty strange seeing that and hearing it in a movie that came out almost 10 years before that one did. Night of the Living Dead came out the year I was born. Isn't that crazy? 57 years ago. I bought the 50th anniversary special edition, which has a very beautiful poster inside. Criterion collection, fully restored, immaculately, so the picture quality is perfect. I probably have, seriously, maybe 7 or 8 different copies of that movie. I have one of the old, original, terrible picture quality ones with all the grain in the film, the scrapes and hair and all that other stuff on the film that it was transferred from. And I like watching that too. So I also have an original pressing of the soundtrack, and a lot of people will say, well, they didn't release the soundtrack, which is true, they didn't. A lot of these, there's a record label called Parise Sarabande, probably pronouncing it wrong, but they pretty much specialized in soundtracks. They had a really good heyday in the 80s, sold a lot. They issued many soundtracks, and the thing is they issued these soundtracks to movies that had been released previously. So Night of the Living Dead wasn't released until like 1983 or 84, something like that. But that was the first time it was ever released. Extremely collectible. Extremely collectible. So I got quite a few of those. Escape from New York soundtrack, very collectible. Original Halloween movie, John Carpenter's Halloween, released in 1983, even though the movie came out in 78. Soundtrack did not get released until later. Only the big Hollywood films got soundtracks in the 70s, usually. So the Halloween soundtrack right now is worth about 250 bucks. Around Halloween, it goes up to about 300. Even though they have reissued it. I have a reissue of it, double album, which contains unreleased music from the deleted scenes, which, if you've never seen the deleted scenes for Escape from New York, it's worth watching. Because you actually see Snake Plissken on a train after they did their robbery when he gets arrested. You watch Escape from New York, it just starts with him showing up at the prison. So, kind of interesting. And what's even more interesting is when you watch that listening to the commentary, because you have John Carpenter and Kurt Russell sitting there watching the movie together, and they're talking about it while you're watching it. And they're talking about that scene. And there's a scene where Kurt Russell just hops right over the turnstile, and he starts laughing, and he goes, "There's no way in hell I could do that today," which is true. So I like interesting stuff like that, and I like the fact that George Lucas and George Romero restored Night of the Living Dead together. They spent some good coin on that, and now it's preserved forever. So whenever I'm out and I see like $1 DVDs or 3 movies on a DVD for $1, a lot of times you'll have these old free domain horror movies like The Bat, things like that. They'll stick Night of the Living Dead in there, and it's always some copy where the picture quality is not very good, but it's enjoyable nostalgically to watch it like that, because that's how I saw it when I first saw it. I also have a 16mm print transfer of the original Star Wars movie, unaltered, pretty decent quality to watch, and it looks pretty much like it did when I used to go to the Ritz Theater and watch it. So that's something I like to watch sometimes, because it's just as it was when I saw it before George Lucas enhanced it, as he calls it. Now, I did buy the theatrical reissues of Star Wars, all three original trilogy, and I mean, the Return of the Jedi one's okay, Empire Strikes Back as well, but the original Star Wars one, it's not really that good. There's a lot of pixelating. Not really pixelating, but part of the digital transfer process at the time it was done, they used the masters from the Laserdisc around 1995. So it's an early digital transfer, and it's also anamorphic. It does not expand to fill up your TV. So not only do you get black bars on the side, you get them on the top and the bottom because it's standard letterbox, widescreen, and you have to zoom on it, and when you do, the picture blurs. It's not a very high resolution. A lot of fans were disappointed when they released that, myself included. But it was still good to have because it looks good on a laptop or a digital device. But they really don't sell laptops with DVD players anymore, or disk drives. It's all USB, because most people use digital streaming, and so there's that. But anyway, I do love movies, and I also bought the Halloween DVD set, where you can choose to watch the original theatrical version. So as I was saying, you can watch the original Halloween movie with the original theatrical version, or the one that most everybody has seen as their first watching experience, the version of it where NBC bought the rights to the movie, because John Carpenter needed some money to finance his other films, movies like Escape from New York and all that other stuff. So he sold the rights to Halloween to NBC, who in turn thought it would be best to reshoot some scenes because they wanted to segue into Halloween 2, which NBC owned. So John Carpenter had no say in that because he sold the rights to his movie, which now he has reacquired the rights to it. I think NBC still has a part of it though. That's the way it goes. But anyway, there's a scene where Dr. Loomis goes inside and has a chat with the people, the psychiatrist. One of the people that was responsible for transferring him to a psychiatric hospital that didn't have good enough security, and of course Michael Myers escaped. So the original version of that film does not have that entire conversation where he's talking with that psychiatrist saying maybe somebody around here gave him driving lessons. That was all a reshoot after the film had already been released, because they needed that stuff in it to tie into the Halloween 2 sequel movie. And there was another scene that they did a reshoot on for that as well, added footage. So you have a choice of watching the original one or the one that NBC changed. And I like it when they do that. I do. Just like I like the Star Trek Blu-ray box set. I got the full huge disc set for Star Trek. Every single episode commentary, it's got extras. And what's good about it is when you put the Blu-ray in, you have a choice of watching how they aired as reruns when I was a kid with these special effects that were fuzzy and looked really not good. And then they redid them with CGI on those space scenes. And both versions have been restored beautifully. So you can choose which ones you want to watch. And I like that. I like that a lot, actually. So anyway, I'm going to walk up this way and wind down this walk. I'm starting to get chilly right now, so now I'm gauging the temperature for how warm I'm going to dress before I walk, if I walk after it's dark. It's definitely feeling chilly right now because it's windy and I get a sweat going. Now I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt, a t-shirt, and a thick hoodie, and I'm chilly, and it's only because I'm sweating. So normally I would wear my gold and brown vintage looking Bruins extra large, double extra large, basically as an old-fashioned type hockey jersey, sort of. I say sort of because it's kind of made to look like a vintage 1920s Bruins jersey, but it's actually a sweatshirt that resembles a jersey. I've had it for many years. It's not unstitching, hasn't come apart. Very good quality. It was an official NHL licensed CCM product, Canadian Cycle and Motor. So when I'm wearing that with a hoodie, I'm fine. And I'm actually wearing leggings today too, because it's cold enough to wear leggings underneath pants. And the only reason why I do that is when you're walking, you sweat, and if you don't wear leggings and it's chilly like this, you're going to be cold. So I'm wearing camouflage ones, so if we have a war, nobody will see me in the woods in my skivvies. And I've got a new battery in here I put in. I'll wind up the rest of this walk. It's always a nice day for a walk. The weather's just different. Saw a video earlier today with a Japanese guy. He was on a boat, and he took the boat out so he could go look at Mount Fuji, one of the most beautiful places in the world to look at it. And he's talking to the camera, and the weather's not good. Got low-lying clouds obscuring Mount Fuji. So he starts talking about never living in the past, never focusing on if I had done this differently, if I had done that differently, if I had run into this person sooner, or if I had not run into this person, my life would be better. He said, when you focus on things like that, you're going to die early. You're just going to live angry. And he said, live in the present. The present is what matters to you currently. It affects your life the most. So also live in the present. And I just thought that was an interesting way to look at it. And people waste a lot of time getting hung up on a lot of things that at the end of the day, when you're lying there clutching your chest and you know you're gonna die, there's a lot of things that just don't matter a whole fucking lot at all. You'd give it up in 2 seconds. You know, so that's how people should look at things, I think. Anyway, just my thoughts. If somebody thinks I'm stupid for thinking that way, that's fine. It's a free country. Freedom of thought. Now this tree across the street, those 3 trees every year put on one of the best displays I've ever seen. The leaves are turning brown at the top. They're starting to turn. I did find some pictures I had dated October 26th, 25th, and these 3 trees were beautiful on that date. So I'm extremely confused right now by the foliage. It's just definitely different. It's off. Some trees look great, some turn brown and look like they're dead. Some of them, their leaves have all come off already, inexplicably. See, we got some tree right there has got no leaves left. There's a lot of them up here with no leaves. Some in the back with no leaves. And then we got one directly in front of us. Barely got any leaves left on it. And then we get that one in front. When that's all done, all 3 of those trees are going to be bright red. And it looks like it's still a lot of green in there, so, and that one looks like it's turning normal, so I don't know what the hell's going on this year. I don't think nature knows what to do this year. All these damn cars, rush hour. Thanks. Cut across here. Yeah, the tree's turning pretty good. Not seeing dead leaves on it. A little thin at the top. All of them are. That has to do with the drought. So that's all right. We'll get some nice ones this year and some not so nice. Somebody's smoking weed around here. Car going by, I think. I've seen a couple cases recently, people smoking weed. The weed had fentanyl in it. And they don't cause these people to overdose on purpose. They want to create addicts. But the stuff is so damn lethal. And these people have a fucking degree in nothing, you know what I mean? What a crazy fucked up world, man. You know, they've gone so much out of their way to talk about how safe marijuana is. It's medicinal. You know, you can make rope with it, hemp, all this other stuff. They don't talk about the Chinese marijuana grows here that used banned pesticides on weed. And people are smoking that. They're smoking these chemicals, pesticides. I remember in the 90s, there was a pretty good rash of people that were smoking a lot of pot getting brain cancer, brain tumors. And it's probably what they were putting on the plants. Smoking it. I was in a room full of people before they were smoking. And I've never been into that. Tried it a little bit as a teenager, but anyway, they were smoking it. This variety has a metallic taste to it. Tastes metallic. Isn't that interesting? You know, like they're being an aficionado, you know, like they're cork sniffing. No, you're probably smoking something that's fucking metal, like heavy metals. Probably smoking mercury because it was grown in a chemical waste pit or something, for all you know. Anyway, crazy is what crazy does. So anyways, my friends, I'm going to sign off. I want to say thank you very much for walking with me today. And this is how I dress when it gets a little colder. And say a prayer for Trump and the country. Say a prayer for peace to stick in Israel and Hamas with Palestine, okay? That's a big deal. Looks like we got something good going. But anyway, God bless you and your family. Say a prayer for Trump and the country, and say a prayer for peace for the world. And we'll see you on the next walk, my friends. Thank you for walking with J.Beau. Have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.